Okay, let's dive into this explainer. Today, we're looking at a truly fascinating progression of ideas that starts right inside your living room and scales all the way up to the very foundation of human society. It's actually amazing how a simple, everyday family dilemma holds the key to some incredibly profound life philosophies. Over the next few minutes, we're going to explore how our most basic human interactions create a ripple effect that ultimately defines our social legacy. So, picture this. It's a highly relatable, hyper-specific domestic issue. You've got a younger sibling who's completely ready to tie the knot, but the older sibling is happily single or, maybe just not ready to take that step yet. It sounds kind of like the premise of a romantic comedy, right? But the source material we're breaking down today uses this exact scenario as an entry point into a much larger cosmic discussion about duty, mentorship, and how we navigate the natural order of things. Let's look at how these two paths diverge. On the traditional path, when the older sibling marries first, they naturally provide a roadmap for the younger one. They pass down wisdom, they warn of hardships, they act as a mentor, it just flows naturally. But then there's the alternative path. When that traditional order gets broken, it requires something completely different. It requires incredibly honest dialogue and explicit blessings just to keep the whole family ecosystem healthy. So, how exactly do we handle that shift? That brings us to section 1, the power of acknowledgement, addressing the alternative path. So the crucial point is that when the younger sibling is ready and the older is not, the older sibling needs an actionable playbook. And the source outlines 3 key steps for this. First up, you have to sit down and discuss the situation honestly. No beating around the bush. Second, the older sibling has to openly admit their current limitations or their lack of intent to marry. They've got to say, look, I find this burdensome right now, or I'm just not there yet. And finally, step 3, they must actively encourage and bless the younger sibling to proceed first. By doing the whole process this way, the older sibling handles what could be a really awkward situation with total grace and actually defers their immediate obligations, their life debts, to their sibling until a later time. But we really need to understand what's actually being sacrificed here. The younger sibling is dealing with a lost mentorship. By going first, they're completely missing out on the lived experiences of their older sibling. They don't get those crucial warnings about the inevitable hardships of marriage, the relationship guidance, or the advice on how to navigate the ups and downs of building a life with someone. The source really emphasizes that the older sibling must profoundly acknowledge this gap. You're basically saying, because I haven't walked this path, I can't give you the guidance you deserve, so please proceed with care. It's honestly a beautiful act of humility. Now, let's zoom out from this micro-family dynamic to look at the profound philosophical truths that govern these interactions. That brings us to section 2, nature's automatic laws, the philosophy behind family obligations. And this brilliantly illustrates the core philosophy of our source material, the law of great nature. Think of it as the universe's automatic censor. The idea here is that when we act with absolute sincerity towards our family, like that older sibling stepping aside and giving a genuine blessing, this automatic censor naturally resolves our life debts, or our karma. It completely demystifies the whole concept of karmic debt by showing us that our sincere, everyday actions clear our spiritual debts automatically. You literally don't need divine intervention to fix a family dispute. You just need genuine sincerity. The source makes a really fascinating distinction here about managing life's forces. On one side, we have what great nature has already given us. These are the tangible things, right? The relationships, the sibling dynamics, the immediate life debts. We're expected to manage these ourselves through our own sincere actions. But on the other side, we have the unknown, the things that haven't been provided to us. That is the domain where we can ask for higher help or ask God. But the everyday friction of family life, that's entirely on us to resolve through nature's automatic censor. Now, as we move through life, the way we resolve these debts actually has to change, which brings us to section 3. Repaying debts through society, shifting the focus as we age. This is a pretty heavy question, but it's a deeply relatable one for so many older parents. You wake up one day and realize your children are grown. They're out of the house, living their own lives, and they're way past the stage of accepting direct parental mentorship. The window for teaching them how to tie their shoes or how to navigate their first heartbreak is closed. So if we still have life debts to pay to the next generation, what happens when it feels like it's simply too late to help them directly? To answer that, we can map out the evolution of our obligations over a lifetime. In our youth, our obligations are local. It's all about sibling support, exactly like we discussed at the start of this explainer. Then, as we move into adulthood, the focus naturally becomes direct parenting. But here's the catch. As we reach our elder years, our obligations don't just disappear. They don't vanish just because the kids moved out. Instead, they shift focus to a much wider lens, turning into social contribution. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the source's fascinating definition of social contribution. When you can no longer give directly to your grown children because they simply don't need that type of guidance anymore, you indirectly repay your debts to them by improving the society and the environment they have to live in. Contributing to the broader society becomes the ultimate mechanism for paying off your family debts. You're basically paying it forward to the very foundation of the world your children inhabit. This perfectly sets the stage for the climax of our explainer. Let's look at Section 4, Building a Lasting Legacy, moving from individual action to societal impact. Let's move to and see how this builds, step by step, from the individual all the way to the institutional. Because scaling up impact doesn't happen overnight. It starts with individual goodwill and deep study. Once you've got that, you begin gathering like-minded people who share your philosophy. But a loose gathering of people isn't enough to change the world. So, what do? You formalize it. You establish corporate entities or legal foundations. And finally, through those entities, you work to create broader laws and systems that genuinely benefit society. It's a crystal clear progression of how a small group can institutionalize their social contributions for maximum impact. But the source material issues a massive warning right here. You can build all the corporate structures you want, but organizations without a core philosophy based on foundational human relationships are doomed to fail. Let me say that again. If a group comes together just to form a corporation without deeply understanding how humans relate to each other, without understanding those microdynamics of sincerity and debt we've been talking about, the organization is completely hollow. It has no true subject, no guiding principle, and eventually it will just collapse. Which brings us to this profound concluding thought. Understanding parent and child relationships is the foundational study of society. This beautifully ties the whole shebang together. The macro success of our societal institutions, our corporate entities, and our entire legacy all hinge on whether we understand the microdynamics of our own families. If we don't understand how to gracefully handle a sibling getting married first, or how to acknowledge our shortcomings as parents, we absolutely have no business trying to build systems that govern society. So, we end with this question. From the sincere conversations you have in your living room today, to the social contributions you make in your elder years, it is all deeply connected. You are operating within an automatic sensor of nature, constantly balancing the scales. So ask yourself, how will your actions today within your own family ripple into the society of tomorrow? It's a powerful thought to leave you with, and one that I really hope sparks a little extra curiosity about the hidden forces driving our everyday lives.